There is a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to reap, a time to laugh and a time to weep. A beautiful story that actually comes from the Bible and the book of Ecclesiastes. The great Pete Seeger set it to music, and a wonderful new group has turned it into a well-deserved hit. Ladies and gentlemen, the Byrds.
Word of God, courtesy of the Byrds. Gotta love that hair. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven, the writer of Ecclesiastes writes. Which this week made me wonder and ask the question, why, God, did you create time? Why, when you made everything, and we believe in Christian circles that God made the cosmos, did you create this chronological component called time? After all, God, by definition, you are timeless and spaceless. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has gone by, or like a watch in the night. You are who you are. You said to Moses, I am who I am, telling him that you are beyond Moses' time. There is no was, God, when it comes to you. So time was created, or at least God chose to put us on this side of time for a reason. Why? A time to be born and a time to die. Baptism today of a little baby. Some of us are older or know people who are older who are dying. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A friend was in the field for the last 2 weeks trying to uproot. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, and a time to build. I think one obvious reason that God puts us under the clock is to reinforce our mortality. Time passes, you age, and you will die. We've covered that theme enough over the first 2 messages of this series. Enough with the death. It was so depressing, but true. So then why else besides that, God? Why time? Well, there's a passage that immediately follows that famous and familiar a time to be born, a time to die passage that I think offers some insight. It goes like this. What do workers gain from their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its own time, in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. And 3 phases kind of got highlighted as I was reading them this week, stuck out for me. The first one was that God has made everything beautiful in its time. This week, or last week, Wednesday, Fran and I went to a recreation area north of Drumheller that our friends have told us about, and it's down in a big coulee, and if you dig in this side of the coulee at about this height, there are bones falling out of the side of the coulee. Really, really old bones that if you're an Albertan and know, you're not allowed to pick up and take away. So this is one of them. It could be a tree, but I think it's a dinosaur bone or part of a dinosaur bone. It's really, really heavy and brilliant. And if you're young or young at heart, you can come up and touch it later. And so we're digging away for hours, sweating in the drumhellerish heat. There you go, it's a play on words. But it was hot. And we're digging and just having the time of our lives. Fran's lost around the other corner of the coulee. I'm over here. We shout to each other once in a while, find anything. And as we're digging and discovering and finding these things, I start to imagine and look back over the coulee and imagine and remember all those flat lands and hills that we crossed driving into that place. Dinosaurs roaming our land, you know, and how brilliant and how beautiful that must have been. You imagine, a T-Rex just roaming across the property and behind you over towards the river, and what that must have been like, and the beauty of that time. And of course, none of us were around, thank goodness, to see it. And it's a beauty, that beauty of dinosaurs, that could only have happened, and perhaps was only meant to have happened, in its time. The beauty of dinosaurs roaming Alberta could not coexist with the beauty of our vast agricultural development, or with the urban beauty of a city like ours, Calgary or Edmonton, or with the beauty of everything that makes up what is now our modern society, modern industry. They just couldn't, the beauty of both of those things couldn't coexist. I mean, imagine a T-Rex stomping around the city, our countryside today, eating all those oil jacks and stepping on all those patrons at 17th Avenue cafes and totally messing up traffic, even with the ring road. Their beauty, the amazing God-given, God-created beauty of that era, that epoch in history, is a beauty that was exactly right for that time. And because God is an endlessly creative creator, when their beauty ran out of time, God then created more to fill more and more and more of time. So it made me wonder, God, did you make time so that there would be enough room for your endless creativity? They say the universe is continually expanding. Another thing that time gives us, when you think about it, is a sense of movement, a sense that things are going somewhere. History is playing out. I mean, can you imagine a song or a story without movement, without time? All of those scenes or all of those notes just stacking up one upon another, it would be incomprehensible. I mean, a little stacking is good to add some narrative complexity, and it's good musically. You end up with some pretty cool chords. But eventually, a song or a story, God's story, needs to move on. One note needs to end so that the next can fill that aural space. A chapter needs to conclude so that the following chapter can begin. And time allows for that kind of movement. Time tells us that things are going somewhere. God is a God who is going somewhere, who is taking all of this somewhere through time. Creation, the cosmos, is not a static, will always be what it presently is kind of reality. God is ushering it along, taking it somewhere. And along the way, as God mysteriously does that, Jesus, we read in the book of Revelation, is making everything new, all things new.